The last book we went around the world. This time we're going to a place that's more of a state of mind. Represented by Old El Paso. Now before we get into it, you will notice something rather unusual about this book. Yes, the pages are in a pale yellow. Basically make them sun-faded before you even get it. So if you find a copy and it looks like this, don't worry, it's supposed to look like that. Yes, this is another book from the 70s. Yes, this is another mail-away book. And surprisingly, it is from the Text Kitchens of Better Homes and Gardens. So we're going to see some weird stuff. Table of contents here, and how am I certain that this is a mail-away offer? This little thing right here. Get a close-up of it, because it has the offer for the book on one of the packages. And apparently Old El Paso had a much larger market share in the 70s, whereas now, well, you still find it, but a lot of this stuff is presented by other companies. As we open up the book a little further, here we see this delightful image of Quick Frank Kebabs, which has a can of new potatoes, frankfurters, green chilies, and a mixture of horseradish mustard, ketchup, and taco sauce. Yeah, that's kind of what we're getting into here. Okay, maybe that's a little unfair, because we do have some basic taco stuff like this right here, and green, red, and white tacos, representative of the Mexican flag. So at least they're starting out with some getting back to basics before getting into the hard weirdness. Speaking of which, we again not only have frankfurters, but also canned tamales, which will be one of two recurring themes in these recipes, for what is Frank Tamale Pie, which also has American cheese grated in it, rather on it. Yay. Here we have even more casseroles with using obviously as many Old El Paso ingredients as you possibly can, because this is that kind of book. Now, one other thing I should mention is that some of these recipes do have microwave directions for the entirety of the cooking. So for microwave cooking a chili con carne, here it is. But for those of us in the know, especially these days, meat does not properly cook in a microwave. That is an oven. That is a stove top. The beef will be definitely something, but it will not be cooked if you do this in a microwave. Be safe. Don't cook raw meat in the microwave. And here we have what they're referring to as, yes, campers and Mexican hash, which outside of just the can of diced tomatoes and green chilies is really just roast beef hash with Monterey Jack cheese on it. I include this mostly because it sounds okay, if a little simple. Here we have hearty fiesta burgers in a winter scene. Okay, they look more like meatballs, but who am I to argue? And now for something that claims to be one thing and isn't actually either, Southwestern Swiss steak. Now, Swissing steak is more a matter of tenderizing it, especially if you have one of those meat tenderizer knife punchers, but at least they were trying. And here we have Mexican deviled eggs, which are really just having regular deviled eggs and just putting them into rotel, or at least the equivalent of rotel from Old El Paso from the past. Yep. Alright, something a bit more appetizing. Stuffed tomatoes. Granted, it's just herb stuffing with some Mexican ingredients in hollowed out tomatoes, but hey, at least it's something interesting and different. Especially since stuffing things into vegetables was fairly common. Here we have a selection of sandwiches. Here we have tamale hero sandwiches, which is, yeah, just kind of substituting a hero bun for a taco shell and just putting a tamale and stuff on top of it. We also have another variation of loose meat sandwiches called Belly of the Kid sandwiches. So, there you go. If those looks at you, there they are. On the more appetizing side, here we have pork spare rib soup, along with a tortilla ball soup. So, They are doing some genuinely decent stuff in this. It's a bunch of whack stuff added into it that you were never going to make, or only make once and never mention again. Speaking of which, here we have bean soup and tamale dumplings. No, you don't ball up tamales into the dumpling itself. You actually make those separately and just use the spices for it. Thankfully. Here we have an oddly color balanced but decent picture of chicken tostadas. And apparently somewhere back we also had tuna tostadas. But you probably have seen that and don't wish to see it again. Nor do I blame you. The 70s version of the taco salad, minus a lot of the accoutrement it usually has, such as gobs of sour cream. So it does actually make it relatively healthier. Ah, yes, guacamole burgers with crushed tortilla shells in the burger itself. Whatever works, right? Now we get on to entertainment and buffet recipes with this. Okay, we're going into some appetizers here with sunrise nuggets, vegetable turnovers, and Southwest tarts. And some nachos. They may not look like it, but those are nachos. And for something unique, taco chicken wings, which again has finely crushed taco tostada shells and Old El Paso seasoning on them. So if you want something real different for your chicken wings, there we go. And unfortunately, yes, it does include microwave directions. Here we have more nachos along with shrimp cucumber dip. That is something else, ain't it? And for something exceedingly simpler, here we have refried beans and chips. You could spice it up with a can of chilies if you so want, but then you'd probably just do that anyway. Here we go, something with a bit more effort. Hominy stew and tortilla skillet with more guacamole. Yay! Here we have chicken and mole sauce, or at least the equivalent thereof. Now, when it comes to mole sauce, typically you probably want something you want to do yourself, if at all possible. I've seen the ingredients in prepackaged mole sauce, and no, do it yourself or do something else. And here we have some huevos rancheros, family style. No, it doesn't look how it normally does, but yes, that is indeed a huevos rancheros based on the recipe. So, yay. Next we have baked Mexican eggs. You just add some Mexican ingredients to your baked eggs. There you go. Breakfast. Here we go. So that thing earlier on was Mexican flank steak, if you say so. Okay, but the flank steak actually has a crockery directions, which is a much better for cooking it than ever using the microwave. Here we have Rio Grande pork roast, which is basically just covered in enchilada sauce and crushed tortillas. Yay! For somewhat lighter fare, we have steak and vegetable kebabs. I would comment about mixing cultures there, but taco arabe is definitely a thing, so it's nothing really new. Durango sauced ribs. Don't get too excited, it's just putting taco sauce and picante sauce on ribs and grilling them that way. And then there is at least an oven method, so if you don't have an outdoor grill, that you have at least an option. Texas style Cornish game hens, basically just adding chopped onion and garlic on the inside and basting them in enchilada sauce. Simple, but I imagine at least it's decent. Here we have a picture of what they describe as Mexican style chicken. What makes Mexican is anyone's guess, but honestly it looks like some recipe that you'd find on the back of a package of one of their own products, but hey, at least they were trying. Especially this rice right here is particularly trying. Next we have duo recipes here. We have more of that Old El Paso Mexican rice seasoning with the rice with crab, as well as a rather simple sounding dish of marinated shrimp and avocado halves. Again, simple, but at least it looks good. And now we have our next picture of Rio Grande stew. Rio Grande stew, basically your basic beef stew with corn in it. So, there you go. Here we go with all the enchiladas you can make in this book, which all follow this same ethos, including ones you can make in a skillet, and even fried enchiladas. So, if you're looking for something slightly different for enchiladas. There you go. Now for something on the less than appetizing end, at least from my point of view, we have zesty Western enchiladas, which seem to just be regular enchiladas covered in Velveeta. So, yeah. If that looks appetizing to you, there you go. Oh, and look, microwave instructions to make it extra miserable. For good measure, we also have this cheesy beef pie, which seems to be a fusion of several different kinds of savory pie, done mediocrely and rather unpleasant looking. But there it is. Now, I've had a look on eBay for this book. You can get it for like $5, so it's not exactly sought after or rare. So there were plenty of copies floating about in the late 70s, early 80s. So if you really wanted to look this up and see for yourself the curiosities that are in there, it's out there for you. If you've had enough just looking at this particular video, I understand completely. Anyway, I'm the Deceptiwolf. This has been the Old El Paso Sun Country Mexican Cookbook, and I bid you good night.